weird tactics as well to try and convince people that, again, the problem exists on both sides, which you make a hard case for at the moment. There's only one side that's calling, people Nazis and fascists. There's only one side at the moment, in recent times that I can think of, where it was a political assassination. People like to go to I believe there's an example, Shapiro, not Ben Shapiro, I believe it was Josh Shapiro, in America, whereby they said it was an attempted assassination in the sense that they burnt they set a fire, somebody set a fire in his living room, in his house, I believe. I believe that they neglected, from what I've heard at least, don't quote me on this, that it was a pro-Palestine activist, which would presumably therefore be a leftist. But now you have Democrats saying they're cancelling events because of the threats of political violence, which I would argue personally, at least from what I can see, I can't say for certain, obviously, I would say that these are substantially less than true, to say the least, simply because they want to make it out to be both sides.
Now, on the Democratic side, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ruben Gallego canceled campaign events this weekend out of precaution, really further highlighting how serious this issue has become. Now, on the Democratic side,
I don't believe they're actually in any real danger. I don't believe they're actually in any real danger because most people on the right don't want to do this. Most people on the right actually want to keep freedom of speech and freedom of expression and all these things intact, their freedoms intact. And a lot of these people, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, not the smartest people. The reason why Charlie Kirk was so successful was because he just let these people speak and let them tie themselves into knots and let them expose themselves in many ways for how short-sighted their thought processes were, in many ways how stupid and deranged they actively were. The right, if they have any kind, again, not to make it about right and left, but conservatives, if they have any sense really, would let these people speak because they're not the most intelligent and they end up getting owned in the verbal exchanges anyway. They end up talking themselves into all kinds of nonsense and exposing the shortcomings or the shortfalls rather, in their knowledge and in their political prowess, which is advantage for your own movement. So there's more incentive for you to allow them to speak. Now, are there unhinged people? Yeah, sure. Do I think they're actually in any danger at this point? No. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong. I suppose we'll see. I hope they haven't received any threats. I hope that this is indeed that they're taking this precaution because they actually need to. I would hope that they would never receive any violent threats, but if they have, I'm glad they're taking the course of action that they are. But we've seen that these people are a lot less than honest. So I suppose we'll see. Just again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you this footage because this is particularly stark indeed. This is something that Ben Leo shared on X recently. And again, you've seen all the propaganda that they try to push nowadays, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen all the things that they're trying to group you all in with, whether you share my views specifically or not, whether you're more to the left of me than not, whether you're more to the right of me than whatever. They'll group you all in with the same anyway, because they want an excuse to get rid of you, because you're a political opposition. That's why they want to get rid of you. Have a look at this video. It was an off-camera moment, or an off-the-record moment from when Charlie Kirk was in the UK, in the GB News studio, talking to Ben Leo. And Ben Leo put the caption up. I wanted to put this up because it feels pertinent with the death of Charlie Kirk. This video is an off-the-record part from before the camera started rolling for the GB News interview. Reveals a sensitive soul. That's one thing you could say about Charlie Kirk. Like I said, he wanted everybody to go to heaven. And he still does. He still does. He wants a shooter, at least from what I could gather from his personality. He would want a shooter to go to heaven. And he'd probably be the first person to welcome him in. He'd probably be the first person to welcome him in because he's just that kind of guy. Have a look at this clip, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me, is this a supposed Nazi fascist to you?
I'm ready whenever you guys are, but the president of the union, I mean, her questions are so dumb. She literally just, and I should have said this, she printed out my Wikipedia page and just asked every single, like there was no research, there was no thought. It's like well, what do you say about this? And what do you, like, people say this about you. What do you, like, not even like a hello, how are you?
Yeah.
And I mean, I should have expected that, but
You ready, guys?
But the passive aggressiveness is what bothered me, because they were like super nice when you arrive. And then I kind of got within 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, they're being so fake.
That's what really, that's what kind of gets me as a journalist when I speak to, say, the pro-Palestine guys on the street. I want to just have a conversation with them, but it's the viciousness which gets me. I'm just kind of like, how can you, I don't know, it's inhumane to me. You have to sit up. Perfect. There we go. That's good. Love it. You're getting schooled on your posture.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, ready?
So there you go. He seemed to actually be like kind of, I don't want to say hurt, because, Charlie was very good, at least not, hiding his emotions, not letting his emotions get to him, going into enemy territory completely unafraid, very personable, very easy to talk to, seemingly always wanted to help people. That was his fundamental thing, that he wanted to help people. And, he's actually kind of, sad, that reflecting on this experience at the Oxford Union, which was a once prestigious institution, how they'd recycled, a bunch of false things that they'd found about him online through Wikipedia, all things like this, right? And they were using that to harass him, not even being like a hello, how are you, all of this thing, just being completely fake. Right. And again, he looked down at his hands and was like, almost like kind of dejected by that. So to show he's not he was never emotionless. He's not one of these emotionless, heart of heart, actual Nazi figures that do, atrocities and did atrocities through history. But yeah, these are the kind of people that you're dealing with. They'll label them all the same. The number one target. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that was very confusing. You might not have seen any of that, but anyway. Like I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, that the school system nowadays, in many ways, is essentially nothing really but a grooming factory, if you will. Now, I'm not saying any teachers in particular are groomers in that sense of the word. I'm not saying that. But the ideologies that are rampant throughout the schools, especially public schools in the UK and Wales. And that's why I wanted to harken back and show you some clips from one of the interviews that I had with a lady by the name of Kimberley Isherwood of Public Child Protection Wales, where we talked about the grooming that was taking place through schools and stuff like that. In Wales in particular, we were talking about this with. And things that she told me, and the resources that I managed to get from her in this clip, which I'll show you now, I'm actually reading from one of the things which is informing the guidance within schools, students, or kids rather, as young as 0 to 4. And I'm actually wearing the same jacket, if you will, that I was in this interview. Just take a listen to this while I'm about to read you off this sheet that comes from UNESCO and the World Health Organization that's dictating what kids are being taught in schools. Let me know, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any problems with this. You should do. If you don't, there's even more serious questions you need to be asking. And Kirsty Williams is the ex-education minister.
Former education minister, yeah.
So just to give you an insight, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who might not be watching or just listening, whatever, the page I have in my hand at the moment, I've got several which we're going to be going over, because there's a lot of things in here which I think if you understood, if you don't already understand it, if you understood these were being taught to your kids, you might have a lot of problems. So when we're talking about sexuality for 0 to 4-year-olds, so instantly you might already have alarm bells. If you hear the term sexuality and 0 to 4-year-olds in the same sentence without any kind of condemnation, already going to set alarm bells off. But some of the guidance that they've been given, ladies and gentlemen, I'll read out a couple of bullet points for you now. Enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body, early childhood masturbation, discovery of one's own body and and genitals. Fact that enjoyment of physical closeness is a normal part of everyone's life. Tenderness and physical closeness is an expression of love and affection. Gain awareness of gender identity. Talk about unpleasurable feelings in one's own body. Express own needs, wishes, and boundaries. For example, in the context of quote-unquote playing doctor. A positive attitude towards one's body with all its functions, positive body image, and respect for others. Normally, at least it was the case when I was in school, I believe from some of the dates you gave, I believe this really started coming into force around 2017. So I had literally just left comprehensive school by this point. So I luckily seem to have just missed like when it was coming in force. A lot. So you hear it there, ladies and gentlemen. Again, a lot of very troubling things and how they dress it up as well. One of the key things of that interview we kept coming back to is how these organizations and how the schools dress things up and try to make these concepts, in this instance with regards to sexuality and children in schools, right, and RSE education and stuff like that. How they'll dress it up in nicey language to try and make people not realize what's actually going on with these lessons and what the actual outcome is. And the outcome obviously is to make children think that this is normal, to normalize the sexualization of children. It's coming through the school system, and sadly, a lot of teachers actively push this and actively, engage with this stuff with the students that they are under care for. So another clip I'm going to show you at the moment with one teacher in particular, where again, as much as, parents, have some element of responsibility as well, especially with that clip of the two young girls that we saw in their home, you have to understand the role of the school as well. It's not what it was when any of our past generations were growing up. It's not what it was when we were even growing up, ladies and gentlemen. It's gotten so much worse. It's gotten so much worse since then. Allow me to tell you the story a bit quick, or show you the story rather, of a teacher by the name of Mrs. House, I believe it is. So Mrs. House, ladies and gentlemen, which I'll tell you about in a moment when I find the relevant clip, the relevant timestamp, was a teacher, was or is still a teacher, may still be a teacher, I don't know. A teacher who said to her students, I believe this in this instance, however, it was comprehensive students, that life's too short for boring sex, and was posting all of these things on social media forums and all the rest of it. And there was another head teacher, I believe, that came over from America, who was expressing the joys to the children or going on about his how him and his homosexual partner had adopted a child, I believe, adopted a child into their quote-unquote family. These kinds of people in many instances are teaching your kids, ladies and gentlemen. So let me just quickly find that for you and I'll bring it up on screen. Right, okay, I think I found it. The interview will be linked down below as well, ladies and gentlemen. Just have a listen to this, have a watch of this, and have a listen to this section, and let me know what you think. And me do this, and it's normal. How much of, in Wales, from what you understand, do you think that it's teachers being put in a tough position and actually wanting to do good, realizing it's wrong, and then you have this other set that actually see this as a good thing? Do we have is it all on one side in Wales, or is it?
Right. Well, what we do now is we know that 68% of teachers don't like teaching any form of sex education for a start.
Okay.
Right? So what we're seeing is a lot of teachers are retiring.
Mm-hmm.
They're being replaced with these new teachers. There's one school down in Cwmbran Way, and it's the back of beyond. It's one road in and one road out. A very small Welsh school. They put a head teacher there, and if you look at his CV, he should be running some academy in America. And I'm like, hang on, you've got all of these qualifications, and you've been brought in from I don't know where. What are you doing in this little village school? But they are bringing this stuff in. These teachers, they're armed with this stuff. So another example I can give you is I'm on all the teachers groups on Facebook, right? I don't say anything. The one time I did, I got kicked off. But you need to be in there to know what's going on. So there's a teacher in Wales called Mrs. House, and Mrs. House is posting her stuff onto social media from the lessons. And she's got children writing things like, Mrs. House says life's too short for boring sex. We had another one and another incident with a new head teacher coming to school. And instead of introducing himself, he did a PowerPoint presentation in the assembly. Instead of introducing himself and his teaching background, the schools he's worked at, he was showing pictures of his husband and their adopted child. Now, when I was in school, I would say, Miss, are you married? And I would be told, mind your business. You know, you only knew if a member of staff was married if they were going as Miss or Mrs.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't know nothing about their private lives. I had one teacher.
So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, there's two examples there, and I might have got it wrong. The American guy, again, coming in with the CV, should have been teaching out some academy or whatever. I think it wasn't that guy that obviously Kimberley was mentioning. That guy didn't lead anything. The other guy that came in, this other head teacher that came in, didn't lead anything with his credentials or what he was going to do for the school or anything like that. Explaining the joys of his and his homosexual partner's adopted child. This is great. This is great. And the sad thing is, when you make a culture based on some kind of representation, and then you bring in all of this kind of, not only the anti-racist stuff, but the weird sex stuff and all of this stuff, you breed this kind of stuff. You breed this kind of stuff, unfortunately. That's just the way that it is. That's just the way it is, because you guarantee by focusing on things like diversity, equity, inclusion, all of these things, you ensure you don't get the right person for the job. In most instances, you don't get the right person for the job because you're not hiring based on merit. You're hiring based on qualities that either people do or don't have control over. But I wanted to highlight this, ladies and gentlemen, because I wanted to see how captured these institutions are. Because you see there, the guidance where it's coming from, it's coming down from on high, in this case in the World Health Organization. And then it's being disseminated through into your students' minds, through their teachers and through their schools. And then you wonder again, why when parents get up in arms about this, the school then gets very, very defensive. Because this is where unions come in, because unions are then involved in this and strong-arming the schools and strong-arming teachers, right? Or many of the teachers strong-arming boards and head teachers and whatever else through the unions, right, to bring this stuff in because they actively want to bring this stuff in. So you see, the schools are not what they used to be. And the schools are the number one area where we're going to need to focus our efforts in the future, all of us. It started with parents being the line of defense. Good thing is, you saw there, is that a lot of teachers don't want to teach this, but sadly they are getting roped into teaching it. Very sadly. Because they have to go along with it, otherwise they're going to lose the job, right? So it's good to see that many of them don't want to teach it, but they still do, right? But then you also have those teachers are retiring. Those teachers are leaving. It's paving the way for more people that are coming in that will just do it without questioning it. In that interview as well, we go into so much more detail about the origins of it, the academic side of it, Alfred Kinsey, John Money, all of these people. It's one, possibly the most important interview that I've done. So please go and listen to it. It currently has less than 100 views. So I would like to get that at least up over 100 views. I'd like to get that to like be my most viewed video possible, if possible, which would take it up over 48,000 views, with that one clip that went viral a while ago. So please go and check it out. Go and share it, especially. It's one of the most important bits of work that I've done, one of the most important interviews that I've done. If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.